Hey, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I hope and pray that everyone is doing well. Welcome to our December town hall meeting. We hope that this becomes somewhat of a quarterly tradition where we can continue to keep you all abreast of what's happening on campus with the Diwan Center for Muslim Life. Mashallah, we have a lot in store for you all, and we're really excited to continue to share the growth and the development that we've observed in our communities. Um, this session will also be recorded. So if there was anyone that you know that wanted to be present and they couldn't make it, or you yourself can't stay for the whole thing, we will post it. So keep an eye out for that, inshallah, in the coming days. We'll just move on to begin by just a short introduction of myself. My name is Numan Dumola. I currently serve as the chaplain at Cornell through the Diwan Foundation for Muslim Life. I've been here since November 2023, so just over 2 years now. And it's been a distinct honor getting to know the students and the community and some of the parents and alumni that I've gotten to meet. And today really is an opportunity for you guys all to see what we have done thus far. So our agenda for the evening will be as follows. We'll take a quick look at how life was before the Diwan Center and really before my tenure here began. Also a little bit about Islam on college campuses, the work we've done, and then we have a documentary premiere, which mashallah was put together by our student fellows who will really be taking charge of this webinar. For me, I'll be an attendee just as much as everyone else. Really, the community is comprised of two main parts. One is the center, which is the physical space wherein we come together, but then primarily it's the people. And amongst the people that really is what our community is comprised of are the student fellows, who are a bunch of students who expressed and demonstrated a desire to give back to our community and to really serve. And so they have been empowered through their roles as student fellows, formal role as student fellows, whom we brought on essentially as interns who really support me in the work that we do here. They are stewards of the community and we meet regularly every week, and they really make things happen behind the scenes. And in fact, such that they've alleviated my burdens at a logistical and executive level where I'm better able to focus on just taking care of people and do a better job of that. So inshallah, without further ado, I will be passing it on to them and they will roll through our presentation for you all today to tell you more about our work and the Diwan Center, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. My name is Musa Jallo. I am currently a senior in Information Science and Africana Studies. I am a student fellow, and because I've been here for so long, I can speak a bit to what life was like before the center. So we had weekly meetings, we had our Jummah prayers, but especially thinking about what that was like beforehand and what you all will see later on, it's a complete change. The size increase, it's been more than double from what I remember my freshman or sophomore year. And that's really been due to the advocacy and the outreach that the center has done, that the chaplain and we have done in terms of making sure that people are aware that this is a resource, that prayers are here, that this is a space we all come to every Friday to worship. So there's that. And then also just the advocacy and dedication of the office. So of course, we all do what we can to take care of the Muslim community here. But as students, we have a limited ability just by virtue of us having schoolwork and other obligations to do that. But really having full-time faculty, having people like the chaplain and all of the staff to advocate on our behalf with Cornell administration and also just make sure that they can fully focus on nourishing the people here, it's invaluable. Speaking of which, I know Chaplin passed it on to us, but I really would like to emphasize the orientation, the direction, and the stability that he provides, just being a presence here, especially just having that sort of figure that we can all rely on, that we can come to, that we can talk to, that has been something that I think has really shaped a lot of people's spiritual journeys and has made it so that they can really have a substantive religious experience here. So that's also me on the slide at the opening making a few remarks. So that was also a fun one.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Sharafan. I'd like to touch a little bit about how we see Islam as being very valuable and meaningful when talking about the college campus space. What we've really been able to recognize through our work just in the past couple of months is how transformative the Muslim experience is on campus. And what I mean by that is really, given that we are an Ivy League institution, we are actively engaging, future leaders, decision makers, trailblazers, and that means Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So we have the potential really to shape today's societal perception of Islam. And, given that we engage with a lot of different religious communities on campus as well, that's, been something that after Chaplain Ahmed's arrival, we've been able to increase in our interfaith engagement, our advocacy with administration, which led to expanded resources, new spaces, which you guys will see later this evening. Um, our real mission is to continue cultivating Islam on campus and really provide students with community advocacy and experiences that allow students to build genuine relationships and have meaningful dialogue, which will then allow them to kind of situate Islamic values within the civic landscape of America. And it's also true that the college experience is often characterized by existential curiosity and openness. And again, kind of going back to how we're engaging people who will go on to do very important things and serve people in various roles. The idea here being that the quality of one's exposure to Islam and Muslims in general is very pivotal. And we as a center want to facilitate discovery, connection for Muslims and the broader Cornell community through creating these spaces to have dialogue and build relationships.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Zainab. I'm a junior studying economics and history, and I will describe a little bit of what we've done specifically. So, Chaplain Rahman, Musa, Sharafa have all talked about kind of the growth that we've experienced and the aims of the center, what the center aspires to do. I'll go over a little bit of what we've achieved over the past 2 years, and then my own personal experience with it, having had the privilege to be part of these happenings. So I'll begin kind of just earlier this year, actually. Earlier this year in May of 2025, we had the grand opening of the center. So although the Muslim community on campus has existed for many years before that, the grand opening was essentially the opening of the physical space of the center. So we have two prayer spaces, a sister's prayer space, a brother's prayer space, Chaplain Norman's office, a Diwan community lounge, and a wudu area. This is all located on the third floor of Annabelle Taylor Hall. So we have almost the entire floor to ourselves, and it's really just a space for us to come together, have classes, have prayer spaces, and just have that communal space for ourselves. But in May, we had the grand opening of this space. It was very celebratory occasion. We were joined by students from all over, students from the campus, alumni, and also guests from out of town. So it was very beautiful to see the culmination of those efforts, not just efforts of the efforts of the students and the chaplain since he's arrived, but also the efforts of everyone that has come before that, because really, our efforts all build on top of each other. So it was a beautiful, beautiful time to see that growth. In terms of Jummah, since over the past 2 years, we've doubled our Jummah attendance to a sustained weekly congregation of over 250 attendees. What this means is that when I first came here as a freshman, we were praying in the basement in the One World room. And now because of our expanded size, we've moved up to the second floor auditorium. And as you can see in this picture right here, even that room has really filled up. We also, Chaplain Nu'man hosts 2 weekly halaqat for the community. So he conducts 2 weekly traditionally rooted classes on topics such as aqidah, fiqh of worship, spiritual purification, and race and racism in Islam for students and employees of Cornell. So really just broadly for the Cornell community, and sometimes we're joined by members of the Ithaca community as well. But these classes serve to give us a foundational religious knowledge and really prompt discussion amongst each other in kind of in Islamic subjects. It's personally I found this to be really beneficial because a lot of we have a lot of rhetoric and a lot of conversation in our college classes, but this kind of gives us an opportunity to ground all that information and ground our own personal experiences in Islam in religious education. And then we've also hosted a series of esteemed guests, scholars, and speakers. So since May, on the leftmost picture, you'll see Ustad Amjad Dersin from Al Maqasid, who joined us for our grand opening and senior graduation ceremony, alumni induction ceremony. That was a joint thing. In the middle, we hosted a program earlier this semester in September with Imam Nihal Khan from Berkeley, from UC Berkeley, who was getting his PhD from UC Berkeley on European colonization in the modern Muslim world. And on the rightmost picture, we very recently hosted Professor Masood Taj, who is, I think, most recently affiliated with Carleton University. So we had 2 events with him. The first was in collaboration with the Arab Student Association on his calligraphic works. And then the second event was in collaboration with Cornell Historical Society on the Dome of the Rock, and just speaking to the history and the architecture of the Dome of the Rock. And then we've also, alhamdulillah, curated a meaningful Ramadan experience. I think Ramadan is one of those events on campus, similar to Jummah, where really it represents a lot of students from campus and a very large portion of the community comes to attend. So as part of Ramadan, we have daily iftars. So most of them are hosted in the second floor on the auditorium. Some days we'll have special events in other places or just come together in one of the dining halls on our swipe-in days. We have daily tarawih, and we also on the last 10 days for the past 2 years we've had on the last 10 nights for the past 2 years we've had our qiyam nights. So students can stay throughout the night and worship and kind of have discussions together. And then right before suhoor time we'll read the Hajj together, and we'll also just eat suhoor together before going back. And then, in addition to this, we'll have some programming. Chaplain Nu'man also hosts 2 weekly programs during Ramadan, and then there's also some student-led programming. So it's a time of year when we're really alive on campus. And I just want to mention in the middle that if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask in the chat or hold your questions to the end as well. Both will be opportunities to ask questions, and I think we'll answer them all at the end, inshallah. We also received the Perkins Prize for Interracial and Intercultural Peace and Harmony just earlier last semester. And then in addition to this, Chaplain Nu'man provides approximately 500 hours of pastoral care per academic year. We've launched the student fellowship initiative. So myself and the other student fellows who have spoken are just some of the student fellows that facilitate programming. And we've also empowered Muslim and Muslim adjacent cultural student organizations through leadership capacity building efforts. So as the Diwan Center facilitates conversation between MECA, the Muslim Educational Culture Association, PAMSA, the Pan-African Muslim Student Association, MPA, the Muslim Professional Association, and then a number of cultural orgs, including the Arab Student Association, the Pakistani Student Association, the Bengali Student Association, just to name a few. And it serves as a platform for us to all just come together and unite.
So I think this brings us to what I'm really excited about, which is the premiere of our documentary, at least part one. So, mashallah, for the last several weeks, actually maybe even months at this point, all of the student fellows have been working at their own capacities, but mainly Layla and Minhaj have been putting in a lot of work to film and edit and really bring to life their vision for a documentary where they're really telling the story of our community. And so this is part one, inshallah, and we'll have parts two, three, and four released later this week, inshallah, such that we'll have a premiere screening after Friday this week. So without further ado, inshallah, we're excited to share the first part of this documentary with you all. Sorry, like to kind of come back to the logistics of all of this. We're saying December 2nd, Tuesday, we'll have the town hall.
One thing that I noticed when I arrived and was charged with this task of serving the community here was that it was a place that was full of great potential. You could see in the students, in the community at large, that there was this desire to really connect with one another and to find a sense of community and belonging. Considering the isolated nature of Ithaca, many people are hundreds of miles away from home, and they come here for the next 4 to 5 years of their lives, where they'll then move on to something greater, hopefully. But in the meantime, they find that they're also discovering who they are. Freshman year, we didn't have a chaplain. There was not a lot of events. People didn't really know about anything going on campus. And that was kind of a big problem.
We didn't really have a chaplain when I first came. It was in that weird period. It was very hard to carry the religious programming and the student programming.
I came at a really weird time where there was a transition year period between the last chaplain and Norman.
Allah the Almighty has said, "O child of Adam, as long as you invoke me and ask of me, I shall forgive you for what you have done."
As an international student, first year was a little bit hard for me. I don't know that I can connect with people here, and we didn't have this space.
It was very I think hectic.
I don't know MSAs exist. So I was I googled up Muslim life at Cornell, and the website for Muslim life showed up. I went there. I don't think it was updated, so there wasn't any information about Jum'ah. So when I came here, I missed the first Jum'ah.
When I found out that there was actually this organization that was helping us choose this chaplain and funding him and bringing him to campus, that's when I became more engaged.
Once Muslim Life and Chaplain Norman came in, he kind of made Diwan and Mecca and all of these Muslim organizations known throughout campus. And I've met a lot of my friends, I made a lot of friends along the way. And I don't think a lot of these people would have been involved without Cornell Muslim Life. Starting out my tenure, our community was of a modest size, about 100 to 150 or so at Jum'ah.
But in order for more beauty to come, the remnants of what has passed has to follow.
I had an office that was in the sub-basements of Annabelle Taylor Hall, and we had 2 prayer spaces that were not really near my office or even where we prayed Jum'ah. And it was also in the sub-basement. And it became clear that we didn't have a space of our own. We didn't have a place to call home, wherein we could, as a community, come together, seek refuge in one another's company, learn from each other, and also just in general feel at home.
Mashallah. So I again want to thank Minhaj and Layla for putting in the work to create our little documentary, and that's just part one. It makes me excited to see the rest of it. Mashallah, they've, I think in the rest of the videos you'll see that really the stars of the show are the students and the hearts that bring these spaces to life. And so with that said, we have presented, how we approach our work here in terms of building community. And, there's a particular need with regards to the increasing amount of students that we serve and the community member. At this rate, the number of Muslims on campus, um, through consultation with the office of the provost, we've come to this number of about 1,000 people, 1,000 Muslims or so that we serve regularly, or that there's a capacity to serve. And we've seen that in the increased numbers with Juma and in the programming and so on and so forth. So this is a brief breakdown of essentially how we use our resources. Um, you can see that most of our time goes to programming and events and pastoral care. And the pastoral care is, an initiative on my end where I provide office hours for students who need support, guidance, advice, and really just an ear to listen, and a shoulder to lean on through the challenges that are presented to them through their academic struggles and also just being away from home. But the programming and events, mashallah, due in large part to the efforts of the student fellows, we've been able to do a lot of things that had I not had their support, we would not be able to do. But we want to continue to do more, and the need is outstanding. And so this just demonstrates sort of how we use our time and our resources a little bit. And in the following slide that's to come, we can show in ways in which you can support us and be a part of the efforts on campus. And really, there is a Launch Good campaign in which we have now launched, alhamdulillah, recently, which shares some of these details that we went through in this presentation. But really what it comes down to is that there's 3 tiers of suggested giving that we would be honored if you'd be involved through. The first is that if you can give $33 a month. And where we got these numbers, by the way, is related to our tradition, and that $33 each month of 313 supporters will enable us to continue to give these services. And 313 is the number of Sahaba who were at the Battle of Badr, and they stood against an army of 1,000 or so, and they were severely under-resourced and challenged such that it didn't seem hopeful, and yet they were able to prevail, and through that, the Muslims were able to continue to grow, and the mission of the Prophet ﷺ was able to grow. The next step is the $133 each month, which is to pay homage to the Bay' of Aqaba, wherein about 75 Muslims pledge allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. And so 75 times $133 each month also meets our goal to be able to continue our services. And that really was a pivotal moment in our tradition, because that is exactly the episode that led to communal autonomy, which is essentially what we want. We want to be able to grow in ways in which that our community actually needs. We are really, when we look at our counterparts on campus, whether that be the Jewish community or the Christian community, they have a lot of resources and they're able to do a lot more for students. And that's primarily because of the resources that come in, both from alum, from active students, from their families, and so on and so forth. And then finally, there's this tier of giving where we urge you all to become an Arqami builder of $250 each month. And that's to pay homage to the 40 Muslims or so who were present at the house of Al-Arqam prior to the public da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ. They would gather to learn about Islam and really spend time with the Prophet ﷺ and spend time with one another. And so if 40 people can give $250 each month, that would enable us to have a stable footing and a firm foundation through which we can continue this work, inshallah. That essentially concludes the sort of content with regards to what we wanted to present to you all. We also wanted this to be an opportunity for you all to speak to us. So if anyone does have questions or anything they'd like to add, we invite you to share it in the chat, or I believe you could also raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. And then myself or the student fellows can do our best to answer them, inshallah. Right. So, our brother Irfan is asking for the events, guest speakers. Are you planning a way where we can listen virtually to your speakers? Yeah, I mean, we would love to, and we have spoken often about how can we make the content that we put out more accessible to people. So that includes things like the Friday khutbahs, the halaqas that I also do, um, as well as the guest speakers. A lot of it comes down to just not having the human resources around being able to more professionally record and then set up the AV audio stuff. Of course, that can be voluntary and whatnot, but we are hoping that we can do that in the future to provide the incredible stuff that we do learn about on campus to the broader community, inshallah. Thank you for your question, inshallah. Yeah, so Fatima is asking, can you tell us about the work the center does with other groups to foster community at Cornell? Yeah, mashallah. So there's a lot of moving parts to our community. When we talk about Cornell Muslim Life, that's the Muslim sort of organizations, right? PAMSA and Mecca. But then there's a lot of overlap with the cultural organizations, as Zainab mentioned. So there's PSA, BSA, ASA. There's a lot of these cultural orgs that they all have a different experience, both as Muslims on campus, but also their experiences based on their own cultural upbringings and the different walks of life that they come from. So we realize that, instead of dictating to everyone what the community should look like and what it should look like to show up with Cornell Muslim Life, we wanted to invite them to be a part of that process. So we formed the Student Leadership Advisory Committee, where we invite the presidents and vice presidents and the leaders from each of these cultural organizations to participate in a monthly forum where they can talk to us about their needs, their hopes, things that are pressing for them, things that are important for them, things that they would like to see more of. And this way we're able to really keep a pulse on how people feel in real time and then cater events and offerings accordingly. We also do a lot of work just building relationships with our neighbors. ATH, Annabelle Taylor Hall is a space for all of the religious communities where you'll have the Jewish and Christian communities as well. They have their own offices, and a lot of that is just spending time with them, speaking to them. We've done an interfaith chaplains roundtable as well, where we pick a topic and then just really speak about our own traditions, perceptions, and perspectives on that topic. We'll also be doing an alternative spring break, I think alternative February break actually, in the next calendar year, where a group of Muslims, Christians, and Jewish students, in addition to the chaplain and Joel, who's the director of the Office of Spirituality and Meaning Making, will go visit specific communities in Philadelphia this year, and attend services from each of these communities, and also along the way engaging in more dialogue. So that's sort of some of the approaches and ways that we do that. I mean, I would love to hear if any of the student fellows would like to add anything that I may have missed. Yeah, but that's just the gist of it for now. Well, it seems, as far as I can tell now, that we don't have any other questions. Oh, here, there are more questions. Have we planned any events that are joint events with other Muslim chaplains of other Ivy League universities to encourage interaction with Muslims from other Ivies? So we actually haven't planned it, but Yale does a yearly Ivy Muslim conference, and for the last 2 years we have gone. as Cornell Muslim Life, as kind of as a group, informally to be present at that. Um, Usually, this year was huge. It was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago was the last one. There was about 250 students from all the Ivies, but also just Northeast universities. They've expanded it to be beyond the Ivies now. And I think we've been pretty well represented in the last couple of years, and it's usually very fruitful. My hope is that we actually can see more things like that that are more substantive. Unfortunately, it's just like a Friday, Saturday event, and by the time we get settled and start talking, everyone leaves. And it's also been a very fruitful experience for me to be able to sit with the chaplains there. And we often, have tea at the Muslim chaplain, Yale Muslim chaplain's home, who's Omar Bajo, who's actually a Cornell alum, mashallah. And we get to spend a lot of time just sharing notes, experiences, and learning from each other. And also the chaplains that are not just Muslim chaplains, but university chaplains of the Ivy League institutions also do a yearly chaplains retreat. So that's the Christian, Jewish, and Muslim chaplains, and any other denominational chaplain. They're often invited to meet at one of the Ivies each year. So last year it was Harvard, and the year before that it was UPenn. I'm not sure who the host is this year, but there are some initiatives to do that. We also try to do some initiatives with like local and regional MSAs and Muslim chaplains. The Muslim chaplain from Syracuse University, Imam Amir Durraj, he actually did a study. He's working on his PhD at Syracuse, and he did a sort of longitudinal study of Muslim life, and he had come and really participated in a lot of the Ramadan events last year and interviewed some of our students. And that was also a fruitful experience where he came with a bunch of his students to our programs, but also our grand opening. And there's been talk, we've had some talk about trying to do like an upstate New York conference or gathering of sorts for the chaplains, but also the Muslim students to continue to like cross-pollinate with each other, inshallah. Mhm. Let's see. I don't see any other questions yet. Um, I'll say going once, going twice. And if there's no one else that wants to ask a question, I want to just thank everyone again for attending. Thank the student fellows for putting together the presentation, the documentary, also putting in the effort to present and be present with us. As I said, that this will be recorded and posted, inshallah, online for anyone who would like to follow up or share with someone who wanted to be present, but they couldn't be present. My hope is that this does become somewhat of a regular occurrence, whether it be quarterly or uh, however often that people are benefiting and asking for it, and that we can do a bunch of different things. And today was a presentation on who we are, but maybe the next one is a presentation from an alum or even a parent on a particular topic that is of interest to us and that is of relevance to us. But this is one of our initiatives to continue to kind of expand the sense of community beyond just the campus environment. That community happens in relationships, and relationships don't end just because people move and leave places, right? They persist. And, even watching the documentary, thinking about some of our graduating seniors, it made me quite sad. But, this is not an end. So our hope is to continue to cultivate these relationships. Please do take an opportunity to look at our Launch Good campaign. We would really appreciate your support. And any other suggestions that you may have, please do reach out. I think everyone has my contact. That pretty easy to find, but my email is nad83 at cornell.edu, and I'm always open to hearing from anyone with regards to suggestions or comments. So jazakallah khair. Yes, and Sharafa reminded me to say that please do share the Launch Good campaign with your networks, because a lot of times, because Ithaca is so isolated, there's not a lot of awareness about what's happening at Cornell Muslim Life. So we want to gain traction and really spread the word on the work that we do, which we believe is an extension of just Muslims in America. It's not just like an isolated thing. So please do share it with your networks and keep an eye out for the rest of our documentary. That was just part one. We just wanted to give a little teaser. Inshallah, the rest of it will bring together the rest of the narrative. With that said, Jazakallah khair. I really appreciate everyone giving their time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.